John says that he's said the lack of God and religion led to the shooting in Maine. Oh gosh. Okay, John.
Tell me about this, John.
Yeah. How do you figure that one, John?
Well, if more people believe in God, there would be less intolerance in the world, which then leads to violence and evil, and that's precisely what happened here.
Oh God! So you didn't hear about the Middle Ages, then? Let me tell you something. You're a little late to the party, John, from Canada. There is this concept called the Middle Ages. All right. And during the Middle Ages, there was something called the Crusades. And there was all kinds of people that believed in God.
No way.
Yeah. And they couldn't stop killing each other over those concepts of God. And then a little later, they got into like the pre-Enlightenment period where they had disagreements about the nature of God. And then even within the same general religion, within Europe, right? And they started killing each other because they were Protestants and killing each other because they were Catholics.
But it's the same faith.
It's the same darn thing. I know. Also, let's talk about this. There's all kinds of people in like different kinds of cults that believe in God and spirits. A lot of times.
Yeah, but that's the wrong one, right?
That's the wrong one, but they don't know that. They think it's the right one, and then they drink Kool-Aid, they kill each other, they go on killing sprees. It's amazing. So, John, I don't think you've gotten the memo, but belief in God or gods does not equal peace and tolerance as far as I can see. But maybe you've got some new data. Go ahead, John. What do you got?
Well, when you talk about the Dark Ages, you forgot to mention the Renaissance,
you mentioned the Enlightenment.
All that stuff.
Did mention the
but
Enlightenment.
I'm not talking about the Middle Ages. I'm not talking about a long time ago. I'm talking about right now.
Right.
See, evil is permeating all over the United States because people are looking for something to believe in other than God.
So
people start believing in therapy, woke, all that stuff.
They believe in therapy and woke. They do.
Did you know there's a lot of woke Christian people?
That's what's happening here.
There sure are.
And Christian therapists?
Yeah.
What about, are they just wrong?
What is it? I didn't hear you.
There's a lot of woke Christian people, and they're not shooting anybody. There's a lot of Christian therapists also not shooting folks.
Yeah.
I don't see how that's bad or even contradictory to your own faith there, John.
Well, but you see, that guy that shooting, he had mental issues.
Yeah.
Okay, so therapy would have been bad for him?
They let him go because they let him go because they don't believe in hard punishment.
Oh, okay.
So you think punishing him because of Jesus would have helped?
What kind of punishment did you have in mind, John?
Yeah, we're kind of in two different things.
He should have been locked up for the rest of his life.
So Jesus would have done that. That's what is that? You're saying that it's the lack of faith and God and religion. So how would God and religion have punished him harder?
That guy is just a symptom.
Oh, what's the disease, John?
The disease is lack of faith.
Lack of faith in what? Lack of faith in what, though?
Faith in God.
It's not in God. Oh, I guess that's therapy.
So when people they didn't have a lack of faith in God, let's say during the Middle Ages. I hate to bring it back to that pesky Middle Ages, but when people didn't have a lack of faith back in the Middle Ages, they weren't killing each other. You got your thumb on the pulse of what's going on in history. Tell us.
You ignored the fact I just finished telling you in the middle.
You ignored the fact. You told you to ignore that fact, Johnny.
John, please continue. What did I ignore?
I told you.
I'm going to pay attention.
You ignored the fact that I told you that in the Middle Ages they had exploration, they had invention, and a whole bunch of other stuff.
They had exploration?
And how does...
Yeah. Okay. How do you think Christopher Columbus got here?
So here's the thing. It's really... We're kind of dunking on this because it's so hard not to dunk on a take this completely off base. I think if you let's just make a list of mass shooters and talk about where they come from and why they said they were mass shooters. It's oddly, incredibly rare that they are super like militant atheists or even have these hallmarks of being irreligious. A lot of them come from religious homes or even arguably do these things for religious reasons. So I think that if you're looking in the face of why people say they commit crimes and saying it's not that, it's this other thing I made up, it's really hard not to just sort of dunk on this take. I think it's a really common one. People just want to blame what's wrong with society on the other. And I'm guessing that to you, the other is atheism. But I think it's really hard to defend this one, man. Like, if you're saying that the issue is that we're searching for meaning, wouldn't that be a clue that religion didn't give us that meaning? Religion didn't give us a lot of these answers, and has this enormous history of violence. So I don't even really know where to begin with this one other than to joke about it.
Yeah. John, you have you're a dedicated caller to the shows. And it's amazing to me how often you have just the worst possible take on any particular topic. And I could go back. Kevin from New York, love you, Kevin. Hope you call back someday. But, God, John, you've called so much. And if it weren't for the fact that I can't really tell if you're trolling us, I would go back. I would spend time going through and just showing how off the mark you are for the last, at least, 2 years, maybe? Every time you call, it's like whatever there's a lesson in the news, in history, in philosophy, in whatever it is, you manage to walk away from it taking the wrong lesson. And I wonder, that kind of dedication at being wrong, what you could achieve if you were to actually critically evaluate the world that you live in with information that is just as available to you and to me and to the folks in the audience. What amazing things you couldn't accomplish. But it doesn't seem like that's on your docket. It seems like what you want to do is call in and try to take a dig at atheists. The guy here, this shooter, right? He suffered from paranoia. He had mental health issues. It's no joke. He also had really great access to weapons. And the society that he lives in, and I'm going to point out to you, John, this is a mostly Christian society that we live in. It's supposed to be secular, but it's awfully Christian. So there's no shortage of churches and churchmen with their hands out for money that don't have communities that are there to support people like that. But this guy fell through all the cracks because I think our society relies upon these guys with their hands out in the communities that they form to be that support system. Mm-hmm. We put our tax money into other things. Let's not get too political about it. Too late. But I think that you have a vested interest in arguing a position. You have zero interest, John, in actually following the evidence as you discover it. And so rather than entertain your desire to be heard and seen in front of thousands of people, I'm just going to let you go. So goodbye. All right. Yikes.
I shouldn't be smiling after that, but that was a very good, I think, summary. And I feel like in my heart, there's this sadness of, we do have hearts, by the way, atheists, knowing that he's not going to be the only one out there. No. Saying these things and arguing this. And I just hope if there's anyone listening who's like, no, but he was right, think about how you can support the folks who are suffering from a tragedy like that instead of scolding them over how they should have believed what you believed all along.
Yeah. And also not to make the shooter a sympathetic character in any way, right? Because there's lots of ways to deal with your issues. But there are folks out there who fall through the cracks, whether it's the shoddy safety net created by religious charities and groups like that, our desire to, take more decisive action on enforcing things rather than preventing people to get to that point. We need to be more social. We need to be more active in finding the people who are vulnerable to these kind of situations and put our arms around them and bring them into the fold. However that works, while still being safe, because you can become a victim of a person by trying to help that person. You just got to find a way. Organizations, we're always trying to make our connection with those organizations.